So with Emmanuel Rodriguez off to a great start in Wichita, a lot of people have been asking, when is this guy going to get called up to St. Paul? Some people even jumping ahead to when is this guy going to be in the big leagues? So I've been getting that question a lot. Want to talk about it. What's up? It's Tom. Little bit of a new space here. Moving a lot of stuff around. You might have heard me reference that in some of the system recaps. But kind of getting settled in. I apologize. I don't have my regular camera or microphone set up yet, though. So doing this one on my phone. Hopefully it's usable for you. But anyway, moving on. Again, Emmanuel Rodriguez hit a home run last night. Made a great catch in center field. Tricky play. So he's really showing out. He's been great on the bases, too. Obviously drawing a ton of walks, getting on base. That's sort of his calling card. So naturally, people are... He's got an OPS over 1,000. So it's completely valid. Even though it's early on here, it's not even the end of May, completely valid to be asking, when is this guy going to be moving up? So I want to talk about that. And my answer is going to be not yet. Not yet, but we're getting closer. Kind of when it comes to these top prospects, this is how I would handle things. I'm not sure if the Twins would see things eye to eye with me here or not, but, time will tell. Emmanuel Rodriguez, I would want a guy like this, regardless of their age, really regardless of their performance, I would want a guy like this at least playing a half a season in Double-A. Now remember, a half season in the minor leagues, it's only a 5-month season in Double-A, so that would be mid-June we're talking about for Emmanuel Rodriguez. It's already late May. We're only talking about a few more weeks here before I would entertain moving him up to St. Paul. So getting close, and he's checking all the boxes. Again, performance-wise, there's really not really any concerns for me with how he's doing. He is still incredibly young. That's something we're going to talk about some more. But on the flip side, okay, so that's when I would consider moving him up to AAA, at least a half season in AA, which would be mid-June. But the other side of the coin is, okay, but how long would you want a guy in AAA? Some people feel like there's some kind of a set minimum amount of time a guy needs to be in AAA before you would consider calling up to the majors. I don't believe that. I believe if it came down to it, if you had a need at your major league club, I wouldn't ever be opposed to just calling a guy straight up from AA. Because I do think you want to protect these top prospects from being in AAA too long. It can just cause... It can cause guys to stall out. It can cause bad mental stuff, just being stuck at that level. I don't think the talent is that much different from AA to AAA. And then actually, I could maybe make an argument that there's more raw talent and ability in AA than there is. It's more refined in AAA, but you have a lot of 30-year-old, like Caleb Bosley type guys who, their stuff is not that impressive. They just have a better command. They have a better idea what they're doing. And certainly, I'm not saying that that wouldn't benefit Emmanuel Rodriguez from facing guys like that. But it's just something to consider in this conversation of, how much or how little or what's the most amount of time you'd want a guy to be somewhere. And really, for a top prospect who you expect to have a major league career, I'm probably aiming for the maximum amount of time in AAA before I would expect their first call-up to be 2 months. I don't think if you have a guy that is going to be in the majors, that you want in the majors, and you have kind of a forecast, that's the other side of the coin. Has he done the half season in AA? And then the next question is, can you envision him being on your major league club 2 months from now, regardless of what else is going on? Obviously, if there are injuries, opportunities open the door, a lot of this conversation is thrown out the window. Byron Buxton goes down for the year and Max Kepler is going to be out for 2 months. We're talking about that's one of those scenarios in which you might say, screw it, we're calling this guy up from AA. But luckily the Twins aren't in that situation right now. So that's kind of the conversation on Emmanuel Rodriguez going from AA to AAA. Now, let's just talk about the majors part. That's obviously another step to go. But let's talk about it, because I don't think it's out of the question that we might see this guy in the Twins this year. And again, maybe not even in one of those disastrous scenarios where a couple of the guys get hurt. He may just earn his way on, and some of the guys that are on the team right now just aren't grabbing and taking and running with these positions in the outfield or a DH. That's certainly part of the picture as well. Now, when we get to that conversation, it's kind of interesting because another guy I've been asked about quite a bit comes into that conversation. That's Deshaun Kersey Jr. He's playing great in AAA. So if we're talking about potentially promoting a guy from the minors to the majors, I do think, it depends on the scenario of what you're looking for, but I do think Deshaun Kersey Jr. in the outfield picture would be the first guy to come up from the minors right now. He's 27 years old, so he's really got nothing left to do develop-wise. He's got a 900 OPS with the Saints, plays great defense in center field, run the bases pretty well. You might be thinking, well, wait, how come the Twins haven't counted on this guy already? Why isn't he already up? He's been really a late bloomer. He was a fourth-round pick, I think. I know he was one of the first 5 rounds of his draft class. So it's not like he's just some, random indie ball signing who was undrafted or something with no pedigree. No, he had actually a pretty big pedigree. Just took him a really long time to get things going. I think maybe the COVID year kind of hurt his development in particular. He had some injuries early on, too, and now that he's been healthy and playing really well. I think Deshaun Kersey Jr. absolutely is going to factor into the conversation when you're talking about the Twins outfield. That's more so in center. He's a good defensive center fielder. Obviously, Byron's there. Willie Castro has really looked uncomfortable there. I do think Willie can be a solid major league center fielder, but it's almost like he has the yips, the throwing yips. He's got like the outfield read yips. He's just not getting good reads on fly balls, and I think he's kind of there's a mental challenge with that. Well, similar to when you have the yips with throwing. Willie's got something going on there with reading up fly balls in the outfield. Obviously, Manuel Margot factors in there to some degree in center. The unfortunate thing with Kersey is when you kind of get outside of that, it's tough because he's also a left-handed hitter. So, with your starting with Matt Wallner, Alex Kirilloff, Trevor Larnach, none of those 3 guys they've given a lot of the opportunities, but none of those 3 guys has really taken left field, or even just like a left field DH, or in Kirilloff's stance first base. Well, however you want to cut it, neither of those 3 guys have really taken a position and claimed it for themselves on this team. But they've all shown flashes, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Deshaun Kersey Jr. with that being the case, because the easy thing would just say, well, Manuel Margot's not playing well, swap those 2. Well, that's kind of creating some platoon issues. Deshaun Kersey Jr. has mostly held his own. It's been a little bit up and down, some years better than others against lefties. But, you would figure a guy like Margot, who has a long track record of being a pretty productive hitter against left-handed pitching in the major leagues, would be a better bet to perform better against left-handed pitching than some of these other guys. Unfortunately, that has not rung true thus far, of course. But you would project out going forward. But anyway, back to Emmanuel Rodriguez. You might be thinking he's 21 years old. He's not going to be 22 until February. So this is his age 21 season for the whole season. And you might say, well, the other teams call these guys up when they're young. Why don't the Twins ever push these guys hard enough? I get that conversation to a degree, but let's kind of look at the rest of what's happened this year in Major League Baseball so far. There are 3 guys who are younger than Emmanuel Rodriguez who played at the Major League level. That is it. Emmanuel Rodriguez is actually 3.3 years younger than the average position player in the Texas League in AA. So he is already 3 years younger than average in the league he's playing in. That's crazy, and especially with how well he's playing. But the 3 guys who have been in the majors who are younger than him are actually all Jacksons. I didn't put this together until I was looking this up. Jackson Chourio, Jackson Holiday, and Jackson Merrill. So pretty sure, if you want your kid to be like a hot prospect, a good ball player someday, maybe name him Jackson. They get like a half-grade bump on their scouting grades. But yeah, so those 3 guys, and those guys were all really big prospects. Jackson Chourio has a 582 OPS, I think, with the Brewers, a sub-600 OPS. Jackson Holiday was a mess. He was terrible and then got sent back down. He's putting it back together. He's having a good run in AAA, so probably we'll see him with the Orioles again. And then Jackson Merrill does have a 700 OPS with the Padres, so he's holding his own, doing a good job there. He also brings a lot more than just his bat to the table. So, yes, some of these other teams will push guys harder. Yes, you can always look at phenom prospects and say, well, that guy was up when he was 21 or whatever. But it's more of the more common that teams don't push guys as hard. And Emmanuel Rodriguez, he was a big money signing. He always has had a big prospect pedigree. He's backing it up with his play. So I'm not saying it's inappropriate to go to this conversation at this point. I think we can start having these conversations, which is pretty fun. But I don't think we're anywhere near being able to say, like, oh, the Twins aren't pushing him hard enough. He's not being challenged, things like that. So I think he's right where he needs to be at the moment. I do think within a few weeks here, we can start having some really legitimate conversations about moving him up to St. Paul. And then I do think if he can keep this up, there's a chance late in the season that he could be contributing to the Twins possibly. So pretty crazy. The one other big thing in this conversation I do want to call out is that he's already on the 40-man roster. So if you're having this conversation with some other players that are not on the 40-man roster, like Deshaun Kersey Jr., that's another challenge. You're going to have to find space on the 40-man as well for those guys. So sometimes that's easy to do, sometimes it's not, depending on what all you've got going on. But it is a factor in this one. So again, thanks for enduring the cell phone video in this one. I'll get my stuff set up eventually. And actually, another thing I want to call out is we will be doing the Twins Ticket live streams probably each Sunday evening at some point starting in June. So be on the lookout for that. Really excited to get into more deeper conversations like this one. Talk more just about than just about the system recaps. We're so hyper-focused on individual games. Kind of step back, take a look at the big picture, talk about some of these other fun topics of conversation. So anyway, thank you so much for checking this one out. Really appreciate you. We'll talk again soon.